Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode review for Halo Season 2 on Paramount Plus. I have my co-host here, Busy Brown. What's up, Busy?
What's up, man? This is a interesting episode to say the least. So I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, this episode, I think at the beginning of it, I was talking to Busy. I was like, by the end of this episode, I'm either going to feel sorry for Kai, be pissed and never forgive Kai at the end of the day. And little did I know, I kind of felt a little bit of both. But the person that was the real playmaker in this episode was Cortana.
Hell
The
yeah,
double
bro.
agent, the showstopper. And I mean, think what you want about how they're doing the character design. I really love how they implemented her in this episode specifically. But let's go ahead and just break it down. Busy, what was one of the things that you felt was really dope about this episode?
So I feel like with this show it's been a little different. We either get like a really really strong start or a really really dope finish. And as for the last episode, we got a really really strong start. This episode I think had a really strong finish. And showcasing not only Cortana but some action sequences between John, and then having that whole sequence with Kai and John. There was a lot of emotions on top of a lot of like really cool visuals. And I think this episode really did a good job on pushing the story further, if you will. Of course, we had some stuff with Quan and Halsey that was interesting, especially where they ended up. But I'm not 100%, sold on it. It just, I'm interested to see how that plays out, but I'm not like looking forward to it as of now. But everything else, they're like splitting things up into like three different storylines. But the
Yeah.
main focus I'm at right now is John. What's going on with John? Even the Covenant stuff has actually been really cool. So technically four different storylines, but I'm invested in everything right now. So it's gonna be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just pop it off. I mean, the beginning of this episode started with Perez.
Mhm.
Perez is now in the Spartan program. One thing I wish that we could have gotten a little bit is kind of how she got inducted into the Spartan
Yeah.
program. Like, did she had to go through physical modifications? Like, I mean, she's still the same exact height. But it's kind of like, what kind of a Spartan is she? What are they really trying to do? Because the last episode we saw, there's a whole army. It's not just a small subset of people that are being trained. There's a
Mhm.
whole army out there. And it didn't necessarily go straight to that, but I did like how they started going through the simulation, because with the simulation, we really get to kind of understand like how good of a leader Perez actually is, and also like how much he's like John. John is not just gonna go the cookie cutter route. He's
Mhm.
gonna try to find like, okay, there's another harder way to figure this out, and we need to do it. Because the reason why the simulation wasn't working each time with Perez is because there wasn't anybody to really lead it. And I think the interesting part about it was Perez and Kai's discretions against each other because of reach. We didn't know at that time what Kai knew, and we didn't know what Perez knew. But
And I think that was kind of a problem. I think that the way we started off with everything, they needed to kind of give us a lot more information on how we got to that point, because no joke, me and you both, well, I especially thought we skipped an episode because of like where we started, and then we zoomed out and we see John watching from afar, and we just get all this information that it just felt like we were skipping something.
yeah,
And there's a lot of questions that I had from us diving into that, and I feel as though it did seem a little rushed, but honestly I have no complaints because where we ended up at the end of it all. But,
yeah,
yeah, I really did enjoy the starting sequence, because off the rip with them, battling and jumping out of a ship, I was like, "Yeah, this has to be a simulation. If not, then it's actually insane that we're just diving into this, like, without
yeah.
any explanation. This is bad."
Yeah, because it honestly, if you play Halo, this feels like you're in the game. I mean,
Mhm.
it was well done VFX, and at the same as that time, you kind of felt like, man, if this was real, like people they just get murked. The thing that kind of was the red herring in this is that you never saw any of the enemies, and so I was like, okay, this is definitely a simulation. But the way that they handled it with Perez and Kai's back and forth, I think that was a really dope touch as far as getting us into the introduction. Now, I do think personally there were certain things that they rushed. I think with Perez's character, even with Halsey meeting her daughter again, and not talking about the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
the loss of a freaking loved one. And then even like with Soren and his wife trying to find their kid, like as soon as they got to where they were at, it was like they never really gave any explanation of what was going on. Like we can assume what's happening,
Yeah, and I understand that's a
but
build-up, though, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
yeah, so I'm hoping that they pay off with Halsey and her daughter with talking about the lost loved one. I hope with Soren and his wife that they pay off like whatever is going to actually happen, because it goes back to the PTSD that Soren's feeling. But it did feel like there was a whole in between gap, that there was an episode that we could have gotten that fleshed out a little bit better. Between the time that we see Kai at the end to where we are now. I think I would have loved to actually see the moment that Kai took off and watch what was happening on the screens as Reach and how she was reconciling that. Because I think that we saw her in simulations in this episode trying to relive different ways and
Mhm.
punishing herself.
And they
But
could have done so much more with that because that was so impactful,
yeah,
and even Atkinson made a good point. He's like, "This is morbid, you're just punishing yourself." But it's
yeah,
like, I don't know, I just felt like that scene was really underplayed, and they could have
yeah.
just done so much more with that.
Yeah, because imagine if she literally was doing that and she was seeing like her dead comrades, right? Like
Mhm.
imagine like how that could have really resonated. But I'm just going through some of the negatives so we can get into the good stuff, because her interaction with, oh gosh, with Chief, that was rough. That was everything. So let's go ahead and go back for a second. So Chief, he's kind of looking and scoping everything out. Kai's out there wandering. Nobody cares what she's doing. And then Soren and his wife are going and doing their own thing. And then Chief was like, no, Soren was like, you know what this is, like, bro, like, keep a low profile and chill. And he was like, go get your son. I got this. And so Chief goes and starts to engage in combat. He's not trying to kill them. He's just engaging in basic combat. And he lets himself get taken. And we were talking about this. I was like, that man ain't no fool. He's been in countless
Mhm.
battles. Why would he deliberately put himself in harm's way without any kind of gun? He knew for a fact they couldn't kill him on sight. He knew for a fact they would have to bring him in, but he also had to know that he could get away. And it's just, I love how he infiltrated all of that, really to get to Ackerson. But really, once he realized that Kai was there, his mission shifted, and it was this, I don't know. I think that one thing I wish I could have gotten, because you introduced Perez in this, I would have loved to see her intercept him first. I think that was a missed opportunity as well in this episode. But as far as Chief going through the ranks and getting through, infiltrating, and finally meeting up to God, the lead up to that, how did you feel about Chief just dissecting everybody?
So, anytime we get Chief action sequences, it's always great. And although I know a lot of people were upset about him not having, the helmet, and or having, yeah, not having the helmet, I think it's really cool to see him in action sequences without the helmet, because it's
Mhm.
just, I feel like it just makes him feel more of a badass character because he looks
Yeah,
more human. He's doing all these things. He just doesn't seem like a machine when he has the suit on. I don't know why, but he just feels more machine
yeah,
than he does human. Obviously that's gonna change once he gets the season. I mean, once he gets the suit in this season. But there's just been times where like just seeing him shredding through these guys without an issue, it's been so cool. And on top of that, he's already extremely injured. Again, he doesn't have his suit. There's a lot that is kind of like nerfing him right now. So to see him kind of like just kind of back in that element specifically because he has a goal. That's something, like you truly need as a warrior. He has a goal. So to see him just going in there and then of course getting himself caught, then once he gets caught, he gets out of that super easily. I was just upset he didn't do it sooner because that woman was like on her high horse, talking her stuff, and I was just waiting for him to be like, "Hey, yo, like peep this real quick," and then just get out of it, and then just kind of look at her and be like, "Are you still gonna talk to me like that?" Because
right.
she was on something to think she was gonna be able to talk to him like that. I know
Yeah.
she was shitting bricks as soon as she found out that he escaped.
Oh yeah, she definitely did. And I think honestly, if he would have pulled it quicker, she probably would have tried to aim for it in his head. Like she knew full well like he could kill all of them if he really wanted
Mhm.
to. But fast forward to your girl Kai. I mean, the whole entire episode, she's training these recruits, and Perez is just giving her the business, and she seems like she's got a chip over her shoulder. And Perez is like, this is not war. This is not us really trying to work as a tactical team to overcome something. This is
Mm-hmm.
a simulation. And it's interesting because it was this push and pull because of the fact that Perez lived through Reach, and at the end of the day, Kai didn't. Like, she left. I mean, she didn't have any control of how it happened, but at the end of the day, she did. And so by the time, it's found out that Chief is there and she's sitting there drinking that Kool-Aid from Ackerson, like, yeah, he's like connected with McKee, and is the reason why he's trying to get to to Artifact and XYZ. It's still ironic he ended up with the Artifact anyway. But but the fact was that she was drinking that Kool-Aid and just thinking he just gone crazy. And I was like, hi, come on, bro. Like, make it make sense. Like, have you thought about the alternative? And I think that in their discussion, in their conversation, like, he was like, the reason why you can't hear me is because the alternative is too scary for you to accept. Like, you understanding that the people that are manipulating you are the villain. You can't accept that. And so when they got to their head to head, like, she was like, stand down, and he didn't engage her. He didn't fight her. She was just beating this man literally to death, and he called her bluff. Like, he was like the Joker. If she was Batman, he was Heath Ledger's Joker. Like, he was just laughing and smiling the whole entire time. Like, you have nothing to bother with. And I loved it, but at the same time, like, Chief, did you have to get beat down that bad, bro? Like, could you at least block once? What was your thoughts on that whole situation and process with that?
So I think he made the right call, but at the same time, because ultimately she did look at Ackerson and say straight up, like, no, I trust my chief. Because if he fought her, I think that would have actually made her question his sanity a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But by him fighting or not fighting back, I think she was just under the intention that he's actually like he was hurt. He wasn't under control of the covenant. Like like all the stuff that Ackerson said, and maybe it could be challenged. So to see him doing that and to seeing him getting thrown around, because of course Kai isn't her joke either. She's strong as hell. So to see her actually like doing all this specifically because she's in her suit, she's in her armor, it was just crazy to watch. But no, I think he ultimately made he clearly made the right choice because of course that ending scene with Kai. I'm really curious to see where it goes and to see her kind of help him even more because she now knows that he's not the issue, if you will.
So she had that interaction with Ackerson, and she realizes who he is, what he is. But what does she do at the end? What is she gonna really do realistically? Is she gonna really come against this man? She can't pull rank over him. She can't kill him. So what is she really gonna do? Is she gonna try to see if she can help John escape? Like, what are your thoughts?
So I don't know. I think at the end of the day, she's gonna. I'm hoping she just sides with John. I don't know if it's gonna come to a point where the Spartans kind of will take her word or follow her lead over Ackerson to the point where she can kind of like pull enough people to side with her where Ackerson doesn't really mean anything. But I don't know if she's at the point of that yet. But there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and so that's more of a what I'm looking at because I'm sure Ackerson has some type of contingency for if Kai ended up going rogue.
Yeah.
So it's one thing that's really throwing me off. So I mean we'll have to wait.
Yeah. The next thing to really kind of talk about, I mean, we've already kind of gone over Soren and his wife. It kind of was, I ain't gonna say it was kind of a throwaway. It's kind of a setup for what's gonna happen next, in my personal opinion. But Halsey going with Khan, and Khan, what's her name? What is her name?
Quan. Quan.
Kwan. She is following this dead lady. And I was just like, where is this going? What are we really going with this storyline? I don't really know, but we did get an interesting tidbit that Halsey had been there before. This is where she used to work, and she knew exactly where it needed to be. And the fact that when Quan jumped into the well and just was just there, that was so sci-fi. I actually really liked how they did that. They're trying to make Quan really relevant, but I don't know to what end. And I don't know, now that Halsey's met back with her daughter, I care more about that storyline than whatever Khan is trying to do. Um, but now one of the best scenes in this movie, I mean, I almost called it a movie, in this episode was McKee dealing with her relationship with Arbiter and validating what she's trying to do to him. And basically, because he's seen the paradise through the simulation last episode. And so he believes what she's throwing down. He even burned himself in the beginning of the episode to say, I'm going to follow down this route. Where on the other side, John, he's been beaten down by Kai, and he kind of is like just broken. And all of a sudden, for both situations, like she's about to die, he's like dead set on not knowing what to do. And of course, the lady comes, and we're talking about Cortana. And Cortana is a double agent. We come to find out she's talking to the commander, or the what's the lady's what's her rank? I forget her rank. Is she the commander, or was she?
I'm not quite sure. I always forget her name.
I'm gonna call her the admiral just because she's got to be higher ranked than the commander. But you find out that she's the one that planted Cortana with McKee to get information and intel from the Covenant, which is insane. That's freaking insane. And at the same exact time, Cortana is trying to tell McKee what to do and how to survive while leading John to where he needs to go. And she basically is like, look, I know where I'm at right now. Like, look, I'm here with McKee. I'm here with the dude that killed Varric, and you have to get up. And that motivates him to get himself up. And she walks him through all the pearly gates. And it was so dope. At the time when me and him were watching it, I was like, yo, what would be freaking dope is she leads him to his armor. I would have preferred that, but still, it was still dope to kind of see him get to where he needed to go. Because at the same exact time that was happening, McKee was about to get struck down because the priest that was on the Covenant side basically was like, he never dug her anyway. And we've seen Arbiter like throw her life on the edge at all times. But now that he knows who she is, he decides to defend her. And so they're both about to touch the artifact right when everything just goes So that build up for Chief and with McKee and everything leading up with Cortana, what was your thoughts on that?
So I mean, I thought it was really really cool because we have like two intense moments, not even happening in the same area, but in two different sections. We have it happening with McKee, and then we have a crazy moment happening with John. And of course, right before they're about to touch the artifacts, we cut to the credits, which I think is illegal. But they shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, it just wasn't okay. But I think they're doing a really good job closing out the episode, kind of like letting us know like they're not finished. Like we're about to walk into some craziness. And again, I thought it was really handled well because the way they handled the shot specifically, it was like from McKee's perspective when it was showing Arbiter defending her. So I thought that looked really really cool. The way he was like shredding them up, and then we see some of the soldiers defending him. He's like, those who stand with me, better stand with me,
Yeah.
and to see him kind of like start the fight, and then we have all of these soldiers fighting against each other, a whole civil war type situation. It was so cool, but at the same time, we have action over here, and then the whole situation with John, it wasn't even that action packed. It was just a matter of just Cortana being able to override all of their systems, and it was just such a smooth situation with the way John was just like looking at everyone, and just like he even waved and smirked like this is not John. It was just so
Right.
funny to watch. But again, right after all this, they cut to black. That's the end of the episode. Nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a freaking dope episode. I mean, again, I had some certain issues where like it felt like there was in between gaps we were kind of missing. But I still didn't feel like anything was filler. I never felt like there was like a wasted time. I still think characters progressed and there was things that I really wanted. And a lot of it was kind of set up for the next episode. The one thing that was really weird that you brought up was this little thing. And it is really weird seeing it because to one hand, on the right, she looks more like the Halo version of her, but I think we got so used to the left version of what she looks like that it just kind of feels weird. every time she's kind of on screen. But again, that's a nitpick. I mean, I think that the actress is doing a really good job, depicting the character, and I think they're using Cortana really well in this. But it's just small little nitpick to talk about. What's your final thoughts and rating on this episode?
So I'm gonna give this episode a B plus. I thought it was handled really well. I was impressed with what we got, and again, all it's doing is kind of hyping up the rest. So, I mean, I'm a fan with what we got, and I think it's gonna be interesting. The Quan stuff, I am kind of curious to see where it goes, and I do like how they're not giving us like a 50-50 split between the stuff we want and then the Quan stuff. So I am hoping that they can pace it perfectly and still make it entertaining. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's this for me is same sentiments as Busy. I think that this is a good episode. I probably rated it like an A minus to a B plus. Probably a B plus is what I'm kind of leaning towards. It's still the honest truth, man. If you look at and compare the first season to this one, it's like night and day, man. Like they improved on so
Mm,
much, and a big part of it is kind of like focusing in on the things that matter as far as the story arc and giving us even more amazing character progression with John as a character. I think that's what everybody really wants. Now, whether or not people have an indifference of him being in the suit or not, that's a whole other thing. But I personally am loving every minute of it. But I think to some people's point, he hasn't been in the suit that much this season compared to even the first season. Well, that's
Never mind the
semantics.
helmet. He doesn't even have the suit. So
That's semantics. But yeah, Busy. Where can everybody find your content, man?
Busy Braun everywhere. You can find me Busy Reactions on YouTube, of course. I mean on Instagram. What am I saying? But yeah, I mean I'm looking forward to dropping more reactions, not only with me but with Sam on my channel, and then I want to be involved. Of course, we're gonna be involved with more reviews on Team JVS. So go check that out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah, we got a lot more content we gotta actually record right now. So we're gonna go. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button, go to the description bar below, and go and check out all of Busy's content. And you can be able to check it out right here. Take care, guys. Peace.
Falling off the top of